Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Volpe for America show. I am your host, Chris Volpe. Today we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Elon Musk is the first trillionaire individual. We have won the Iran war 500 times now, and highly intelligent people seem to be able to be much more adaptable and changing their behaviors. But before we get started, I just want to say hi and welcome you all and apologize for not having a show over the past couple of weeks. As some of you know, my friend has got cancer and I've been helping him out. And he was unfortunately in the hospital for about 8 days last week. I just got him back home yesterday. So that was great, but it meant that I was either in and out of the hospital or bouncing around trying to do stuff to help him out, take care of his cat, all that fun stuff. So I have not been able to do a show for a few weeks. So I'm behind the times on a lot of the news, but that's all right. You know, we are here for fun. So a reminder that I try to do this every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, where we discuss the latest things going on in America and the world. It could be politics, non-politics, whatever. And also, I invite guests onto the show to just talk about what is going on in their life. So for an hour on Friday, we can just get together and chat about whatever is on your mind. And there's a lot going on in the world today, as there has been for what seems like ever now on this past decade of insanity. So first off, Elon Musk is the first trillionaire ever. He IPO'd, initial public offering, the SpaceX business today. And despite only actually, I believe, giving up about 4% of the company in the initial offering, of course, Elon controls most of that company. So he is now a trillionaire. Did the world need a trillionaire? I don't think so. And yet here we are. So welcome, everybody. I see some folks jumping in. We got Eunice, Ruben, excuse me, coughing a little bit. Welcome to the show. Feel free to chat in chat. I'm keeping an eye on that. And then also, you should be able to click on the join button and you can join the call and we can talk about whatever you would like. So Elon Musk. I am not a fan of Elon Musk. I used to be, interestingly enough, but way back in the day. I was one of the first sort of Elon Musk knower people. I followed him with, SpaceX, Tesla, Boring Company, all those other ones. And I was always interested in what I was doing, though I have to admit, as somebody who is sort of a conceptual fan of like people like Steve Jobs, where I would watch the Mac World presentations, I always found listening to Elon Musk to be pretty I don't know what the right word is. I just never enjoyed listening to his press conferences. I never liked watching his reveals for things like Tesla. He just struck me as someone who didn't have the sort of charisma and the storytelling ability that somebody like Steve Jobs had. And of course, you can fault Steve Jobs for any number of things, but he would, at least at a minimum, he was interesting to listen to, and he was good at creating a narrative of a vision that was, intriguing and captivating, which is something I just don't feel that Elon Musk was ever capable of doing. Now, that being said, you all might have different opinion on that, but that's fine. But he is now I guess officially a trillionaire. What's most interesting, I think, about the situation isn't so much that Elon Musk is a trillionaire, which of course is pretty wild, because if you think about it, that means that the second richest person in the world, everybody on Earth is closer in wealth to the second richest person in the world. And the second richest person in the world, who I believe is it Larry Ellison right now? I should probably look that up. We'll look that up. Richest people in the world. Let's see what we get. Elon Musk. Oh, Larry Page. Okay. From Google. is the second richest person in the world. But what's interesting about that is that you can make the claim that you are now closer, obviously, to the second richest person than Elon Musk. But the second richest person in the world, Larry Page, is actually closer to a homeless person in wealth than he is to Elon Musk. Elon Musk is so far ahead in net worth that nobody is even remotely close to him. The danger associated with this is kind of wild. Who knows what a trillionaire individual is going to be able to do, particularly a trillionaire individual that does not seem to have a particularly solid moral compass. But, here we are. We'll see what happens. Some of you know that I run a personal finance and investing group, or at least I used to. And I would help people with, just kind of basic stuff. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not your financial planner, but I would help people with basic stuff on how to make a budget, how to save for the future, how to do basic investing with 401ks and Roth IRAs and things to sort of set yourself up for retirement. And some people have asked me about the SpaceX IPO that's happening. And my advice, again, not as a financial planner, just a guy who's been, sort of investing and saving money and whatever for a while, is I would stay away from SpaceX like you wouldn't believe. I think the valuation is way out of whack. And I also think that because everybody was so keen to jump on this IPO, all the exchanges, that there has not been what's called a seasoning period that has happened. And I think you are more than likely to see the money that you put in drastically collapse within the next 3 to 6 months. So just something worth keeping an eye out. I see Billy has joined us. I see Camilla has also joined us. Jay has joined us. Welcome to the show. Reminder that you should be able to click on the little join multi-guest button if you want to join the show and just kind of talk about what's going on in your world. Again, I mentioned it can be about anything. It could be about politics. It could be about, movies, I guess, if you wanted to talk about your life. But I'm just kind of curious to see what's going on in people's minds. I was running for U.S. Senate in Ohio for about a year, a little over a year, roughly. And I terminated my campaign in February because I mentioned my friend has cancer. I'm helping to take care of him. And one of the things I really always enjoyed was going out into the world and just chatting with people about what's going on in their mind, not trying to convince anybody of anything, not trying to have some debate or change your mind kind of thing, but just have a conversation about the world, where people are coming from and what they're thinking about. So if you would like to join in and just sort of chat, no need to be scared. I'm an easy interviewer. We're just going to have a fun conversation. So if that is something you're interested in doing, feel free to join us on the show. You should be able to access it with the little button there in your app. But I think we have entered a very strange time here, a very uncertain time as far as all of these tech companies go. And one of the things that has me worried about the potential implications of this is that, particularly when you're looking at AI and some of the other tech things going on, is that none of these systems are really making any money right now. They're all pretty much negative, and it's all kind of a shell game where they're all selling services and support to each other in a way that if one of them collapses, it's probably going to take everything else with it. And I think that's a very problematic place to be when you look at like the stock market, which has been seeing some pretty big gains. I haven't checked today. I don't know what the stock market's at right now, but let's see what the stock market's at. But the issue with that is that over 40% of the stock market gains are coming from AI. And I think it's somewhere around like 70 to 80% of our GDP growth is tapped into like the top 10 companies in the country, the tech companies, your Googles, your Microsofts, your Apples, all of those. And that is a problematic place to be because we are putting all of our eggs pretty much into one basket here. And it just seems ripe for corruption, malfeasance, and just a bad time. So I am very worried that we have not learned our lesson from the Great Recession and that we potentially have a very large recession or depression coming right around the corner. Now, it's not uncommon for a recession to happen. I think we generally see something that can be characterized as a recession roughly every 7 to 8 years. We saw one during COVID, but I don't think a lot of people really considered it one because of all the external factors. It was kind of a black swan event, many are calling it. But this one just seems different. And I think a lot of us who are in a place where we're not independently wealthy and we don't own a bazillion shares of a giant tech stock, maybe we are running on Social Security, maybe we're running on retirement from 401k, or maybe we're just working folks trying to make it through the day. It is a troubling place to be if something happens and all of these things implode on themselves. So that is a concern of mine for sure. And then on top of that, again, I just don't trust Elon Musk. I don't know about you all. I mean, feel free to tell me in the chat. Do you all trust Elon Musk with having $1 trillion and control on whatever types of technologies that he's getting involved in? Not to mention any kind of potential government contracts that are coming down the pike. So it is a very weird place for normal folks like us to be a part of. Hey, Christy, I see you jumped in. Again, reminder, if you want to join us for chat, always looking to chat, just click the button down below. I'll bring you onto the show. We can talk about whatever's on your mind. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. You know, SpaceX IPO'd, I think, at close to $2 trillion. So here we are. We'll see what happens. Next up, Iran. It's the war that keeps on warring. We heard today and yesterday that we are going to have a solution. We're going to have a ceasefire. I think this is like the 800th ceasefire and the 1000th time that we have won this war. Obviously, it just keeps on going and going and going. And I don't know. So I was thinking about it earlier today because, like I said, I've been out of the loop a little bit because of my friend taking care of him. And I was like, what are our oil reserves at? Because I know that Trump released a bunch of oil for using executive action to help kind of keep the price of gas and oil at a, hesitate to say, reasonable level, even though it's obviously way higher than we want to be paying for gas. And yeah, it turns out, surprise to no one, that we are actually at the lowest part of our strategic petroleum reserve in many, many years. But the interesting thing I kind of stumbled upon, and I didn't know this, but our highest level of oil reserves was actually in 2009 under Barack Obama. So, thanks, Obama. And I know that will probably rankle some folks in the chat, or maybe even Donald Trump. I'm sure he's listening to this show. But we have gone from having our highest level of oil reserves. We're down to 365 million barrels right now. We had a total capacity of about 714 million barrels. And I think that I do not see this war ending in any meaningful way soon. And so Once we get to the sort of 20 to 25% mark, apparently this is not, this is my understanding, and I'm not an expert in this field, but when you get to around 20 to 25%, you need that amount of oil in the threshold. That's sort of like our minimum amount to keep all of the systems, I don't know, the pipes and all the subterranean storage facilities and all that jazz running at like normal. So you need about 20 to 25% of our total oil reserves in the system to sort of keep. So I guess you could sort of think about it like blood in a system. You need a certain amount of blood in your body just to be able to maintain pressure and transfer oxygen and all that to the rest of the body. So the fact that we are about, I don't know, what are we at, like 28% or something right now, is pretty worrying. I don't know how much we're going to burn through before, the end of the month here. And I have trouble seeing the war ending in any meaningful time. And the other thing to keep in mind as well is that everything in politics, everything in the world, everything in sort of global supply chain is always on at least a 2-week delay. So when the war first started and the sort of gas prices sort of shot around, we saw the volatility in it. Those were sort of the initial like chest clutching of what was going on. But then there was sort of like a 2-week delay before we really started to see the impact of all the ships not making it to the ports to transfer the oil and all of that. And so every time that something sort of major happens in the world, there's generally a 2 to 4 week delay on it to see the actual repercussions of it. So, here we are again, still attempting to figure out what is going on with Iran and how we can get out of this mess, if we even can get out of this mess. All I do know that I filled up my gas tank the other day. I've got a Ford Escape. So, it's not a particularly large vehicle or anything, it's a decent sized vehicle, I guess. And it cost me about $56 to fill up my tank the other day, which is by far the most I've ever paid for gas in my life for any vehicle I have ever owned. So I'm curious in chat. I'm curious if anyone wants to join me on the discussion. How is that impacting you all for your livelihoods, your travel? I'm fortunate. You can see my little space around me. I predominantly work from home in what I do, so I don't have to drive that much. I take my friend to his cancer appointments and stuff. That's pretty much the most driving I do in a week, unless I'm popping over to a friend's house to say hi and hang out. So I can usually, I'd say I average probably a fill up once a month, maybe. So that's about $50 to $60 a month I'm spending on gas, give or take. But what is it like for you all that have to drive a lot, or people that are maybe driving trucks for work, or in the trucking business? I mean, I cannot imagine that it is easy for you all. So let me know in the chat, or feel free to join the chat, the live chat. I can bring you on. I'm curious what's going on in your world and how the gas prices, the energy prices also are impacting your just day to day. I have absolutely noticed my electricity costs have gone up very noticeably. Now, some of that's just because we're in summer now. You got to turn the air conditioning on, and it's a lot hotter out. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and it's actually been pretty warm this week. It's been, I think it was in the 90s yesterday, which is pretty warm for Ohio. It's not uncommon in summer for us to get in the 90s a couple of times, but we've definitely been in the high 80s to low 90s. And I've seen, you get the like little weekly updates, email updates from the electric company on what your usage is. And my usage has been, above my average for sure. over these past 2 weeks. I also have a dog and a cat, so I gotta make sure they don't steam while they're while we have those high days there. So I ran. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but I'll tell you what, the gas prices personally are definitely hurting me. Reminder, do this every Friday, or I try to do this every Friday. Community discussion with my friends and neighbors. I know it can be a little intimidating to jump on a show and just talk about what's going on in your life, but trust me, it's fun. It's an enjoyable experience. I won't be too hard of a host on you, but I'm just wanting to hear about folks. When I was running for Senate, I was very frustrated about the state of our leadership in general, just Congress and the Senate and everything, but also just really frustrated at the Democratic Party for failing to prevent a lot of what's going on. And so I decided to run. And the thing I really enjoyed the most about running for the U.S. Senate position here in Ohio was just talking to people, just going around, chatting, seeing what was on their minds. So that's why I love doing the show. That's why I love talking to people. All right. Last little article that we had here, a very interesting one. This is on SciPost, and this was posted on June 11th. It says, highly intelligent people are more likely to ditch old habits for better ideas, study finds. A little quote from the article here. The ability to learn from others is a trait that is crucial for human evolutionary success. This ability is called social learning. Thanks to it, humans are able to acquire knowledge, behaviors, attitude, or skills by observing and interacting with other people. People can learn by watching what others do and noticing the consequences of their actions. For example, a child might learn how to behave in a classroom by observing classmates and teachers. Now, there's a couple other parts of this article I want to bring up, but I found that to be an important part of this conversation, because one of the things that I think has been happening over the past decade, and a lot of people feel this, is that the repercussions for bad behavior in society are not being punished. There's no accountability for poor actions anymore. I think some of that just has to do with everyone's in survival mode and we're all exhausted. And it's just like, do you really want to pick a fight with a stranger that's acting the fool to, correct them or whatever? Or do you just bite your tongue and go home and sit because you're exhausted? But it's creating this sense where people with bad intentions, bad behavior aren't being asked to correct their behavior. There's no corrective mechanism going on right now socially for that behavior. And that's how we've all functioned, right? Like when you're a child, you've got your parents, ideally, you've got your school system, you've got your friends, you've got others around you that are correcting your bad behavior so that you learn when you're younger about how to interact in the world and be a good citizen and be a good neighbor and all that. And it just seems like that's not happening as much. Now, I will say as a teacher, my experience with my students generally has been positive. I don't see students pushing back on me in any sort of like disrespectful way. I try to have an open classroom, an open dialogue where students can talk and discuss what they need to, and they can always ask me questions either during class or offline, or I have a Discord channel for my class. So I haven't noticed that so much with young folks, but it definitely seems at the leadership level that that's what's going on. And that's almost a little worse, isn't it? Isn't that worse where the people that are supposed to be the adults in the room are the ones shying away from doing any kind of actual morality? Like there's a lot of performative morality going on in politics right now. But how many people are actually out there being like, no, this is not the world that we want to live in. This is not how we want to create a society. And I was thinking about this sort of concept, not because of this article, but I'm always just percolating stuff in my brain. And I was thinking about this as I was driving the other day because we're having all of these very tough conversations with each other, with our friends and our family. I know many of you are not even speaking to your family or on speaking terms in some regards. I totally get that. I understand that. I am also not on speaking terms with some of the members of my family because of their behavior. And I find it really interesting. I said interesting a lot this podcast. Sorry, I'm brain dead. I have been at the hospital like I don't even know how many hours this week, so my brain's a little melted. So forgive me. But I also find it very sad that when you're having conversations with these people, let's say a loved one, right? When you're having a conversation with a loved one, and these are people that you love and that supposedly love you, and they want the best for you. Why is it so difficult for them when you are telling them what is going on in the world, when you are telling them how their actions or their behavior is harmful to you? Why is it so difficult for them to just listen, right? It's like we're stuck in this constant defense mode where, you're like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what I need. This is what I feel, whatever it is. And yet they refuse to just even acknowledge it. And I think a lot of that is just the sort of sense of defense around everyone feels attacked. But like, you're my loved one. You're my family. Like, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to harm you. And this is something that I said a lot on the campaign trail, that like, I am saying these things to you because I love you, because I am worried about the state of the world. And I see this problem coming down the tracks. Like the train is off the tracks and it is coming towards us. And I am trying to warn you about it. And every time you just refuse to acknowledge it, it feels like you're just burying your head in the sand, because perhaps the truth is too uncomfortable. Perhaps the fact that you were complicit in what was going on is too harmful. But that's not what we're trying to do here, right? Like, yeah, well, maybe I should rephrase. That's not what I'm trying to do here. Okay. I am not trying to make people feel dumb. I am not trying to attack people. I am trying to work and create a world that is better for everybody. And so when I talk about the corruption going on, like in the Trump campaign, for example, or the just blatant unconstitutionality and illegality of what's happening, I'm not trying to get into a debate with you about what is or is not happening. Like, these things are happening. These negative, terrible things are happening in the world. So why are we having so much trouble even just discussing them and talking about them? And ultimately, at the end of the day here, it's creating a situation where the people that you love, the ones that you are trying to help, the ones that you hope through your positive actions in the world are going to live a better life, are telling you to your face, as clear as they can, what they are thinking and feeling and what they are needing, and you are choosing to ignore them. And so sit with that for a second. If you're one of those people that has been approached maybe by a family member or a loved one, anytime, rather recently, I hope I've got Pumpkin, my cat's here to say hello. This is Pumpkin. But let's say anytime over the past couple of years, or even in the past decade, since a lot of this political stuff is happening, if you've ever been in one of these conversations where someone is coming to you and they're like, I am scared. There are bad things going on. The state of politics is very bad. Donald Trump is doing bad things. There's illegal actions going on. Whatever the nature of the conversation was. And your first response, or any of your responses, was to become defensive or feel like you had to ignore it. I think this is an opportunity for you to just take a breath, safe environment here, and ask yourself, what is it about this conversation that is making me uncomfortable? Because if you really drill down to it, the person talking to you, like, do you think the person talking to you is dumb? Do you think your child that is speaking to you is dumb? Are they overly dramatic? So if they're not dumb, and they're not overly dramatic, and they're not being hyperbolic, why are you not listening to them? What is it about that situation? And I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had with my family members where they're like, can't we just get together and have dinner? And do we have to, always be talking about politics? And I'm, kind of like, having to remind them or having to talk to them, but like, this isn't politics. Like, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about the state of the world, and we are talking about the nature of, in some cases, morality, but just in what kind of world do you want it to be? Like, do you find this acceptable? Do you find what is going on here in the United States to be acceptable? And just take a breath, and really, really think about that. I know it's hard and yada, yada. You got to really like dig down and be introspective and all that. But I think if a loved one is coming to you and talking to you and saying these things and you're just choosing to ignore it, there's probably something deeper going on there with you, because the reality is a lot of the stuff is clear as day. And maybe the stuff that's not clear as day can be easily researched. And so if you do care about, in this case, your children or grandchildren, you do care about your neighbors, you do care about the state of the country, then it would behoove you to spend time absorbing what these people are saying to you and maybe starting to do a little bit of education and research on your own. Got some new people. Hello, Kirk, Barney. What else? Got Tess joining us. A reminder, if you want to join the call here, I'm happy to talk to you. We can talk to you live. It can be about anything. I'm just curious about what's going on in your life, how things are going. And then as somebody who was previously running for office, I'm no longer running, but I'm still curious, like, how can I help? What can I do to make your life better or maybe push those important issues? So feel free to click on the little join invite button, and you should be able to, I should get a little ping here and join us. So that was just something rattling around in my brain. Like, what is this challenge with listening to your loved ones? Because and I guess I can only speak for myself, everything that I'm doing, everything that I was doing when I was running for office, everything that I'm doing when I run my business or I teach or I do this show is designed to make the lives of the people around me better. And so why is there so much resistance to that? And sometimes people will be like, well, it's just, we have different opinions on things. And I'm like, yes, obviously. But the tricky part is we haven't even gotten to talking about the policies and the opinions yet. I'm just getting you trying to acknowledge that what I'm saying might be worth listening to, or, it might be worth listening to the people in your life that are saying these things to you. And if we can't even get to that point where you're even willing to like listen and acknowledge the other person, then the policies, all that other stuff is irrelevant. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we are in society. It's that we've got a lot of people that are trying to separate, divide us. And there's a lot of people that are standing in front of you, telling you what they need and what they think. And their loved ones, for whatever reason, are just refusing to listen. And that's a very tough place to be, particularly for those who are the ones doing the talking, the ones that are scared, the ones that are hopeful that there's a better future, but for some reason their loved ones are not listening to them And trust me, I've had these conversations. It's been rattling around in my brain a lot. And to be honest, I think the next step, at least, again, I can only speak for myself, is that I'm sick and tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting for our leaders to do something better. I'm tired of waiting for, the other shoe to drop. And one of the reasons I ran initially, but it's also the reason I keep doing this show. It's also the reason that I'm really working with others to try to make at least Columbus and Ohio and the Midwest better. And it's kind of gotten to the point where, like, when I talk to these people, I was like, look, as much as you may not like the sound of this, I feel like you've sort of lost your seat at the big kids table, the adults table. And I'm going to put you over in timeout with the little kids. And even though I love you, and even though everything I'm trying to do here is to make your life better and to support you and provide you all of these better opportunities and the freedom, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And I'm asking you to please stop being a part of the problem. And, at the very minimum, if you could just step out of the way, if you can't be a part of the solution, could you at least step out of the way so that you aren't interfering with those that are trying to be a part of the solution, and go from there? Because really, when you think about it, when you think about all these things that we keep talking about in the political realm, all these policies, when you think about the world you want to live in, wouldn't you rather want to live in a world where you have access to the education and healthcare that will help you be successful, when your housing and your food is not such a huge part of your income that you barely have any money to do anything else? If you have any money to do anything else at all, when you can feel safe walking down the street and you can start engaging with your neighbors in a positive and peaceful way, when you can start engaging in creative endeavors and learning hobbies and traveling and all of these things, like, these are not dreams. Like, we can create a world where you have access to the education and the healthcare that you need for next to no, if any, cost. We can create a world where you can feel like you have the opportunity and freedom to engage in the life that you find meaningful, and that the people that you love around you are, safe and secure. Like, these are not flights of fancy. We can do all of this. And the simple fact that we're not doing it is a shame. And frankly, I really hope that we are in one of those moments in history in which people are going to stand up and they're going to say, we are done with this. We are done with doing things how they've been done. We are done with the vitriol and the division and the anger. And we are going to take every step from here on out towards making and building this better future that all of us can thrive in and find a meaningful life in. And that is my hope. That is my hope for all of us, that, maybe 10 years from now, we'll be having this conversation on, TikTok, or whatever the TikTok equivalent is 10 years from now, on our YouTubes or whatever. And we can look back and just be like, wow, look what we were able to build together and how amazing this is, so that every generation from here on out does not have to suffer with the anxiety and the anger and the cruelty that has been going on right now. So I appreciate y'all for being here. Last call out, if anybody would like to join the show and just kind of talk about what's going on their mind, I would love to have you. Big C, good to see you again. It's been a while. Good to see you on the show. But I would love to talk to you if you guys are. I got probably I got probably another 10 to 15 minutes if anybody wants to jump in. Hey, Big C, if you want to jump in and chat with me, I would love to have you. If you're able to come and talk, I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, apologies for not having a show recently over the past couple of months. My friend has been in the hospital, and so I haven't been able to maintain my 3 p.m. Eastern show like I've been wanting to, but we're going to try to get back on it. My friend is very sick, so he is my main priority. And of course, if stuff pops up, I got to put the show to the side, but he's back home now from the hospital and he seems like he's doing okay. So I wanted to make sure I at least got one show in, but yeah, Big C, if you're interested in joining and just sort of chatting, I know you've always got things and you tend to be a listener, but happy to talk to you or anybody else over the next couple of minutes. Otherwise, we can just wrap up for this week. A reminder also that you can follow me on all the social medias at Volpe for America. You can also join the YouTube channel. Oh, I see you. Let me grab you there. You can join us on YouTube, where I'll be posting my videos and stuff. Hey, man, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I am doing okay. How's the world treating you?
Well, just trying to survive in this crazy world of ours.
I hear you. It has been a wild. I was gonna say it's been a wild couple of weeks, but it's. I saw a shirt the other day, and I can't remember. I'm gonna have to paraphrase it, but it's been like, something like this has been the longest week of any year I've ever had, or something like that. And it just goes on. But
oh man, it's crazy with just all the world conditions, and then like I'm a realtor, so I'm very dependent upon world conditions. And the hardest thing about being a real estate agent in general is counting on so many different people, not only to do their job, but also so many different people to be making reasonable policy decisions within the government, not only statewide but also nationally. Sure. And so it's it's just crazy right now. And we can talk about all the craziness of the man on top and all the uncertainty that he is creating, but it's just at the end of the day, the thing that's the hardest for me in the last 10 years is watching the ugliness that this man fosters within just simple day-to-day conversations with people. Like it's just shocking. I actually just posted about it today. I had to call the MLS because there was a problem with my assistant not being able to access my stuff because you have to do all this stuff. And I call her up and she answers the phone and immediately, like she says hello, like she just sat on a stick or something, and I'm just like, and I start talking to her, and I'm the kind of person that if my goal when I talk to somebody like that who's already pissy is to say things and to talk to her in a way where I hope that she thinks about how rude she just was for absolutely zero reason whatsoever, and killing her with kindness, killing her with hey, let's have a great weekend, just like just completely not paying attention to any of the rudeness and the ugliness that she's throwing my way, and just throwing the kindness right back to her. And we're all in control of our own emotions, and we are all in control of the way that we react to people. And we have allowed leadership of this country, leadership of the world, and our own deal to, basically give the same energy back to people when we don't really have to do that. You're in control of your own stuff. You're in control of your own emotions. And you know what? I made that woman smile by the end of the phone call. And maybe she takes that smile to the next phone call, to the rest of her day, for the rest of her weekend. And
absolutely,
if we all could just, practice that for a little bit, man, how much better would this world be?
I could not agree more. I think that the ability for us to work together and solve problems and just kind of interact with day to day is it's all built on that. Like there's a level of trust that we all have to have, and there's also just a level of mutual respect and kindness. My ex-wife, well, still wife, still married, but separated. But she works at a company whose job is to help um, navigate people through like their health insurance. So she doesn't work for a health insurance company, but
Oh yeah.
businesses bring these companies on so that their employees can call and just get a lay of the land, since health insurance is just so ungodly complicated.
Yeah.
And she's definitely mentioned she's noticed that and keep in mind she's dealing with a lot of people that, I mean, many are in their worst days, right? Like this worst time of their lives that they're having to deal with these things. And she's noticing an uptick in people just being very short, and it's hard. And she mentioned something that you did, which is, call it de-escalation or whatever you want to call it, but just sometimes if you can just take whatever's coming at you and just twist it a little bit so that there's a kindness in there, it sort of short circuits our defensive pathways. Like people are expecting sometimes that when they're being rude to you or angry with you, they're just expecting blowback, so they're primed for that attack. And if you can remove that and sort of set the stage so that it's a safer, easier place to be, most of the time people will kind of decompress a little bit. And
You're 100% correct, man. You're 100% correct. And I like what you said about the expecting. And I'll go further is, right now, because of the ugliness that is being created, people are anticipating ugliness before they even start a conversation. And I mean, I know that everybody is guilty of these type of things. I mean, when you have an unpleasant conversation with your wife or your brother or whatever, we're all anticipating that conversation to blow up and to turn into something bigger. Well, it really doesn't have to. And the phrase of innocent until proven guilty comes up in my mind of like, look, at the end of the day, we're all Americans here. We're all striving for the same American dream, the same feeling of happiness and kindness and community and patriotism. I mean, all of this stuff. We're all striving for it. We all want this country to succeed, because when the country succeeds, we succeed.
absolutely.
But we can't do that without having some sort of kindness, some sort of reasonable dialogue with each other without it turning ugly. And unfortunately, I feel like, especially in the last decade, and I don't need to say why I believe this is happening, but
You can say whatever you want.
yeah, I know, but we don't even need to go there. We all know what I'm saying here. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mean, in the last decade, we have been taught that the things that we shouldn't say or wouldn't say before, that we thought deep down, like that stuff it's been made okay to say. And
yeah,
and most of that is pertaining to the ugliness that is in people. And it's gross, and I've had enough, man.
I totally agree.
It's hard.
Yeah, I've found myself, I was just thinking about this the other day. I've found myself getting angrier and having a shorter temper than I would like for myself. And sometimes that's expressed in, I try not to express it to people, but sometimes that is expressed in just being shorter with people. I've noticed even like my dog, my sweet little dog, like sometimes I'll be a little bit short with her when all she's trying to tell me is that she needs to use the restroom or whatever, right? And it's just this buildup of this animosity, and it is kind of interesting. You mentioned, I can't remember, it was one of the Jubilees. I want to say maybe it was Adam Mockler or whatever, but he was talking to this young woman, and she was talking about how people talk, with friends and stuff. And she's like, that's just what they say when they're together, and they'll joke and they'll use the N word or whatever. And I'm just like, is that how you joke with your friend? Like, that's not how I joke with my friends. So you mentioned like, the things you think about deep down, but like,
Yeah.
there are some things that people just don't think about deep down, but somehow the lesser angels of a lot of us have been able to, like, the door has been opened to allow us to have that sort of really bad behavior, and without the accountability of any kind of correction mechanism. And to your point, like, I think about the people that are trying to do good work, like, excuse me, not politicians, but just like everyday good work, right? Like, they're coming into these grueling environments, social workers, healthcare workers, all those kind of folks. Like, they're not trying to make your life more difficult. They're not trying, like, nobody goes into work and being like, I'm going to see how many people I can piss off today. Right. But well, I shouldn't say nobody. I'm sure there are some.
I was going to say, you shouldn't say nobody, but yeah.
Yeah. But, ultimately, the vast majority of us are just trying to go into work, take care of folks, do some meaningful work, and take care of their family. And that's about it.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And, I hate to say the cliche quote, but, I think about JFK's quote during his inauguration speech of, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And to me, that spreads throughout, like, I mean, even individual communities. It's not just about what you can do for your country, because we are the country. The people are the country in this country. And, I don't know about you, but when I'm at a grocery store and I'm loading up my groceries in the car, if I see some little old lady that's, unloading groceries into her car by herself, I go unload them for her. I do. We all need to get back to a place that we were in. And I guess this is the quote unquote conservative or conserving of traditional values of, these are values that this country was founded on, and they are values that we have gone away from. And we have decided that if you're not like me, if you don't believe like me, then you are trying to destroy the country. I don't know one person out there that's trying to destroy the country. I don't know anybody who wants to destroy the country.
Sure.
I know some people that
I could name a couple I think are probably trying
yeah,
to, but
well,
yeah. I feel you.
I agree. Like, of course, I think that obviously Trump is, you could definitely make that argument that he's trying to destroy the country.
Can I ask you, let me ask you a question, maybe pushing back a little bit. So this idea that we've moved away from these values, like, do you think that that's actually true? Or is it just that we're only hearing about sort of the squeaky wheels? Because, so for example, I took I have my neighbor downstairs. She's an older woman, and she's got a neurological issue. And so I take her garbage out sometimes. Like, she'll put it out and I just take it into the garbage. And that happens a million times per day everywhere across the country. So is it the case that, like, we have moved away from these values? Or do you think we have this just blowhorn of noise coming at us, convincing us that we have?
Yeah, good question. And I think the answer to that question is a little of both. I think that it's much less prevalent than it used to be. I think that it's just less common to see those things. Do I think that these things are still happening on a daily basis? Yes. Do I think that the media has such an horrendous impact on what we do on a daily basis of creating an enemy type feel from people that don't believe the same thing and might be a different color, might be a different gender, might be a different sexual orientation, might be a different, whatever. Sure, I definitely think there is an aspect of that, but unfortunately, and maybe saying moving away from those values, maybe that's extreme, maybe that's a little too broad, but I would like to bring more of those values back. I should say.
Sure.
I'd like to. Our sense of community is just not the same as it used to be. You know, I live in Idaho, and Idaho is specifically. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it was such a different. It was such a culture shock when I moved here. I moved here when I was 24 because people didn't care about what car I drove or, how much money I had or, the things that people did care about in California. People wanted to know what I was all about as a person, as a human.
Mm-hmm.
People were kind here. People said hello. People, I'm a realtor. And so I bring a lot of Californians over here. And one of the things that what I say to people is, look, just a couple little, things to remember when you move here is one, when you're at a stoplight and the light turns green and you're behind somebody, if they don't go right away and you honk right away, you're the asshole. You're the jerk in this state. We just wait here. We're kind. We wait for people. When we go to the store, if you catch eyes with somebody, if you're walking down the street in downtown San Francisco, you catch eyes with somebody and you say hello to them, they look at you like, who the hell are you? I don't know you.
Yeah.
When you do that in Boise, if you don't say hi, you get the same look. If you don't give some sort of acknowledgement of the fact that we just caught eyes and we're human beings, you get that same look. And, some of that has gone away in the last 10 to 12 to 15 years. Some of that has gone away. I've lived here for 23 years now, and I love Boise. I live in Boise, and I love this. I love the community here. I love the feel of it. The politics absolutely just destroy me, but that's all right. But I live in an area in Boise where it's much more progressive, and so we kind of take advantage of that through the city. I feel
the same way about.
Yeah. Boise is about half. We actually have a Democratic mayor, and Boise is actually leans a little left, and that's there's only one other place in the state that leans a little bit left, and then everything else is just 100%, conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I
think there's a very.
We have lost that here a little bit, and I see it slowly slipping away, and I see it being perpetuated by leadership and by media. And it scares the hell out of me because there is, as I can't remember who gave the quote, but a divided country is a country that's going to fail. And that's not the exact quote, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same, so I'm in Ohio and there's this Midwest vibe, which I've been to Idaho several times. And
have you?
Yeah, and I think Idaho, what we kind of consider the quote unquote vibe for the Midwest, I think a lot of places like Idaho share. And one of the things that as being a part of like the tech scene and the entrepreneur scene and whatever, one of the things that I love is when somebody will come from like Silicon Valley, for example, and they'll come into Columbus and they'll start throwing around their weight and talking about how they're gonna do this and that, and it's gonna be such a big deal and blah blah blah. Same thing with like sometimes from New York, people will come in, they're gonna create this new business and whatever, and they always end up falling on their face because we don't want that. Like we don't want that sort of arrogant vibe, coming in to our town and telling us how it should be and everything. And so I always kind of like the culture shock that some people from the coast will get when they come to Columbus and Ohio. They learn to simmer down a little bit. I've had several friends who came from the coasts who have now lived in Columbus for 10, 15, 20 years, and they've simmered down, but I do, that JFK quote, I always find interesting because, ask not what you can do for your country, but it gets you sort of thinking for a second, because I think the root of the interesting part of that quote is that there's a implied trust there, right? If you are asking yourself, how can you give back to the country? How can you give back to your neighbors and society? There's also a trust there that when you do that, society is also going to make sure it's taking care of you. And I think that trust has been broken recently, and probably over the past 20 to 40 years. That trust has been broken where I think there's a lot of people that feel that they have given a lot to society, to their country, to their neighbors, and society just blew on right by them and has not been taking care of them. What do you think of that? Am I off base on that? What do you think of it?
No, you're 100% correct on that. And I just actually did another TikTok about a week ago talking about the same thing. And I'm going to reference capitalism in what I'm about to say is that, you're right. And you're so right on that. And the interesting part about what I believe, like people ask me what political affiliation I am, and I can't claim Democrat anymore because of the fact that I feel like they left the working class years and years and years ago as well. Is that they have their agenda is, APAC is, whoever's contributing money to their campaign and to their pocketbook, basically. And they have definitely lost sight of it. And the problem is that if you really look at it, capitalism is the best economic system in the world. The problem is that when you have capitalism, the negative side effects are that it creates an individualism. It creates desperation. It creates a lot of different ugly things that happen because of the way capitalism is set up to step on people and that you have to step on people to actually succeed. And that would be eliminated. That would be 100% eliminated. Sorry, both my daughters just got in the car, so I'll have to go in just a second. But that would be 100% eliminated if we had the universal health care. If we had, things where, people, their very basic needs were taken care of and that they didn't have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
And when you feel like you are not being taken care of by your country and by, and even further to go on this is that, I talk to people all the time and I say, people are complaining, oh, well, our tax dollars, we're paying so much in taxes. And I conversely say, well, is it that you're paying taxes or is it that you don't see where your actual tax dollars are going? They're not helping you as an individual, as a human being. Which one is it? And I would argue that it's because you don't see where those tax dollars are going. I mean, you go to countries like the Nordic countries that have, consistently been 60, 50, 60, 70% tax, but everything's taken care of. They have everything taken care of. And so the long and short of that is that, look, my political affiliation is somewhere between a democratic socialist and a free market capitalist. Try to figure that one out. I think capitalism can exist and can be the best and should be the best economic system in the world, but we got to take care of people in the meantime to be able to have that exist and to have it be successful.
Absolutely. I think that I think a lot of these economic principles they're not as far apart as people make them out to be. And I think one of the most important parts, I say this all the time about the free market capitalism, this is clearly stated in the first couple of chapters of Wealth of Nations by Smith, which is like the handbook for modern day free market capitalism.
Would you direct message me that book? I've been looking for a really good book to read about this and stuff. I'm actually strongly considering to go back to get my master's degree in poli-sci just to get some good reading and get some more education in. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it to you. It's, to be honest, it's a very dry economic book. There's probably better books about that book than actually reading Wealth of Nations. But because it's like, I don't even know, it's like 1,500 pages of dry economic theory, but it's the basis. It's where you get things like the invisible hand from, that kind of thing. But Smith is very clear that he's like, in order for a free market to function, you need to have a strong government that is capable of pushing back against the powerful and the corporate interests, because their tendency is to always take their power, money, and influence to bend the market to suit their needs, which, people argue, well, then it's not a free market. I was like, fine, sure. Then it's not a free market. But the point Smith is trying to make is that that's an inevitability. Whenever people enter a system in which they can gain power, influence, and money by altering the system to benefit them, they will do it. So you need a strong entity to push back against that. And the only counterbalancing force capable of doing that is the government. And so even when you have a free market, you have to have a strong government in line with it, to put those guardrails on. So the two are not these like adversarial things. They're actually like hand in hand working together. So you create a system, in my opinion, that does everything you said, gives you access to education, gives you access to healthcare, make sure your necessities like water, air, housing, all that stuff, rent is affordable. And then you let the free market do what it's good at, which is creating innovation and new ideas. But you cannot leave the free market alone completely to itself, because eventually over time, and I think that's unfortunately where we are now, you are going to end up with a free market that's actually not a free market, but it's really just a playground for the rich and the powerful. And that's kind of where we're at. But
if you look throughout history real quick, and I got to go too, I can sense you got to get off, but last thing I'll say is that throughout history, you look at anybody socially, politically, anybody that started to actually talk about these issues, about classism, about socioeconomic issues being the number one issue in the United States, they were all killed. And a lot of people don't realize Martin Luther King, his last year of his life, had completely changed his focus to poverty and tackling poverty and socioeconomic issues. And frankly, I think the best politician in the country right now is that dorky white dude in Texas, James Tallarico. I've been watching him since 2019 when he first started joining the legislature, but I am legitimately concerned for his safety, because he is speaking about the same exact stuff. He is talking about how, the oligarchy, the top 1%, they're the ones that are controlling everything, and they are succeeding in directing our attention away from the top versus down and the looks to from left to right. And that is the basis of his campaign. He refuses to accept any PAC money to be owned by anybody. And if he is not harmed in any way, he will be the president of the United States in the near future. And
there you go.
I hope, and I love James Tallarico. I think he is everything that this country deserves as far as a politician. And I love his message. I love the way he's going about doing politics, and I'm so excited about his future. I actually don't think he should run for president in the next election. I think I'd love to see him as a vice president to Mark Kelly. That's my ticket, Kelly Tallarico.
Okay, interesting.
But I do want him. I would love to see a Kelly Tallarico ticket for 8 years, and then a Tallarico somebody else ticket for the next 8, and try to get this country back on track. 16 years of quality democratic rule of people who actually seem to care about this country I think would be amazing. So
sweet. Well,
anyway.
There you go. You heard it here first. A bold prediction of the next presidential, what are you going to call it, dynasty? But
yeah, there you go.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining the show and giving us your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Good to see you, man. I hope the best for you. I heard. Did you end up withdrawing your candidacy?
Yeah, I did. I ended up terminating my campaign in February because, my friend, I've mentioned my friend's got cancer, and I've been helping take care of him. And I couldn't give the campaign the love and attention it needed while taking care of him. So,
well, you need to get Defiant back on your show. That's the first time I ever saw you, is when you had Defiant and that other lady, who were absolutely terrific. I love Defiant. He is an amazing voice, and just so incredibly intelligent. His use of words are second to none. So yeah, just absolutely love him. But yeah, I'd love to see you soon. I'll definitely be tuning in every time I see you come up on my feed, my man.
All right, sounds great. You have a wonderful weekend.
You too, Chris. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care.
All right, bye bye.
All right, everybody. That has been a wonderful episode of the Volpe Creates show here, June 12th, 2026. I want to thank you all for watching. A reminder, you can follow me at Volpe for America on all the social medias. And then if you missed any of our shows, you can also see those on our YouTube channel. But for now, I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Hopefully things are going well in your world, and I will see you next Friday. Take care, y'all.